Asman Show on the Sports Map Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Knicks and Hawks on Sunday at Madison Square Garden. 15,000 fans will be allowed at Madison Square Garden, so the place should be rocking as the Knicks are back in the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. And for more on the Knicks and their chances against Atlanta, we go out to the Progressive guest line right now. We bring on a longtime beat writer for the New York Post covering the Knicks, Marc Berman. Marc, appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, Jake. Thanks for inviting me.
So let me start kind of big picture with you, Marc. You've been on the beat covering the team for a long time. You've seen mostly bad basketball, of course, over the last decade on the beat. When you look at this year's Knicks team, when did you realize that this was a different team, that they were actually, dare I say, a really good basketball team?
Oh, it took me a long time. I just kept thinking that at some point, they were going to go into a deep slump. And I guess it was, not until maybe March or so when I finally realized that they're going to be here to stay. At worst, they'll be in the play-in tournament. At best, fight for the fourth seed, because the defense is there every night. The resiliency also to, fall behind in games and to rally. I've seen so many instances across the past 7 non-playoff seasons where, the Knicks would make a comeback and get back in the game and then just fold. But this team was, playing really their best basketball in the final couple of minutes and squeezed out some games because of their defense. And, it did take me until after the All-Star break before I really believed in them, because obviously on paper, nobody thought anything of them entering the regular season.
Marc Berman with us here, covers the Knicks for the New York Post. So when you look at Tom Thibodeau and the job he's done here in his first season, what has made him such a great coach for this team?
It really is a great example of how coaching still matters in the NBA. They talk about the NBA as a players' league, but gosh, even when you look at this series with Atlanta also making the coaching change to Nate McMillan, and they're 27-10 under Nate. And, when you talk to the players on what makes Thibodeau so great, he's a great teacher. He is able to tell them things defensively that they've never heard from another coach before. Such detail. Every game, the game, there's such a concise game plan and so detailed, and they're not used to this from their prior coaching, from prior coaches. So he gets them motivated for every game. Basketball is everything to Tom. And, listen, I've written that the pandemic conditions have helped the Knicks because there's no distractions. It's all basketball. And that's what Thibodeau is. He's all basketball. He's not the coach that's going to take you out to the movies on the road, as inspiration. No, he's about the finest details on the basketball court, especially on the defensive end.
Marc Berman from the New York Post with us here talking all things Knicks. Do you think Marc Thibodeau should win Coach of the Year when it's all said and done?
I mean, on March 1st, you can look it up on Google. I was the first one to write. There were one game over 500, and I still thought he should be in consideration with Quinn Snyder and Doc Rivers at the time. Doc was getting a lot of support. But I said, listen, the Sixers and the Utah Jazz, they've been solid clubs for several years. Basically, one scout said Thibodeau took a franchise that was on fire and he put the fire out. And listen, it's 7 straight seasons out of the playoffs. But in the final 6 seasons of that drought, they weren't even in the race after the All-Star break. It was a depressing situation for a beat writer to go to the arena, for March and April, and cover meaningless games for 6 straight seasons. So what Thibodeau did was transform an entire culture. And obviously, March 1st, there were one game over 500. And now my belief is even stronger that he deserves Coach of the Year, as the Knicks finished 10 games over 500, home court advantage. I just can't understand. Listen, Phoenix had a terrific year with Monty Williams, but remember, they were 8-0 in the bubble. They had a big foundation already, and then they added Chris Paul. The Knicks added Nerlens Noel. Enough said.
Yep. Yeah, it's like you heard my last segment talking about this. Totally agree. And the Knicks over-under mark was 22.5 before the season started. It's an unbelievable story. Obviously, as a younger Knicks fan, I've never seen, a season like this outside of, the 2012-13 year with Melo, the 54-game year. But, that team was expected to be pretty good with Melo there in place. Like, this team is just, they've come out of nowhere. And a big reason for that, of course, has been the growth of Julius Randle. When you look at what he has become as a player, how much credit does he deserve? How much credit does Thibodeau deserve? I mean, he is totally transformed, the perception that people have on what he is as an NBA player.
Yeah, listen, the transformation from last season to this season is so you don't see it. Like, I don't even know why anyone is talking about any other player for most improved player of the year. I mean, like, I'm getting emails from other teams about, Porter or Jeremy Grant, and I got one from Memphis on Kyle Anderson. Or I mean, it's like the guy. First of all, just take one thing: his 3-point shooting percentage. You never ever see a player in his 7th season go from 28% to 42% in 1 year. It's just unheard of. Maybe, a rookie going into his 2nd year, maybe he makes the jump, or early in his career. So, listen, but the best part of Julius has been his leadership and his unselfishness on the court. He hasn't forced anything. He's a point forward, whipping the ball around. He's been a lefty LeBron James on the court this season. And we didn't see, last year he was double teamed a lot and he didn't know what to do, and he forced a lot of things. He committed a ton of turnovers. And his reputation in New Orleans, when I spoke to scouts, was he was a, quote, black hole. And he's just making these great decisions. And you have to credit Thibodeau for getting the best out of this super talented player. You also got to credit Knicks GM Scott Perry for making the signing in 2019 after they lost out on Kevin Durant. And, everyone was so upset that the Kristaps Porzingis, did not work out in New York. Well, it's a blessing in disguise. Yep. Because Julius is twice the player that Kristaps is. Kristaps, I remember writing when he was with the Knicks, he would get 1 assist a game. I mean, like for games upon games, he would have 1 assist. I'm like, this isn't right. And Julius is, finished 6 assists. He's got the best assists, points, rebounds ledger in Knicks history.
Marc Berman, New York Post Knicks beat reporter, with us here on the Jake Asman Show. Marc, 15,000 fans at Madison Square Garden for games 1 and 2. You know the Knicks fan as well as anyone. How loud do you think that building will be when the Knicks take the court?
When on February 22nd against Golden State, when the Knicks started allowing fans, 2000, it was 1,980. And I was like a little concerned. I was like, God, it's going to be maybe even more depressing because it's going to be so few people. It's not going to be loud. Well, it was loud from the first night, chanting MVP when Julius went to the free throw line, just chanting defense. I mean, I was shocked. And what 15,000 is going to sound like? I mean, I better bring my earplugs. Listen, I was in Phoenix a few weeks ago with the Knicks. You know, I didn't travel a lot, but I did do most of that final West Coast trip. And Phoenix, I was there when Phoenix set the NBA record for the season with 8,000. And they were really loud. And I was like, wow, this feels like before the pandemic. And that's 8,000. So I can't imagine what 15,000 is going to sound like on Sunday.
So, Mark, with that all being said, you look at this series with Atlanta. How do the Knicks match up with the Hawks? How can the Knicks advance to the second round?
Listen, three-point shooting has become so key in the NBA. And Atlanta has a lot of talented three-point shooters. And the Knicks have the best three-point defense in the NBA. It's such a fun matchup to watch the finesse of Atlanta go against the Knicks' gritty, grinding, physical defense. And they challenge every shot at the three-point line. If they could rattle them a little bit, you know, and make everything difficult and not give them wide open three-pointers, the Knicks are going to win the series. But Atlanta has the firepower. I think the Knicks are going to have to win this with great defense. Their three-point shooting has shocked everyone. They finished third in the NBA in percentage, which no one expected. And I'm not sure it's going to last. That's the one thing where I still am a little skeptical. Is Reggie Bullock going to step up as he has most of the season? Is R.J. Barrett going to be able, as a 20-year-old, you know, become the big second option to Julius? I think Julius will be terrific. I'm just wondering about their offensive depth. Gun to my head, I'd take Atlanta in 7, but, you know, it's almost a pick 'em in Las Vegas. The odds keep shifting depending on the betting. One day the next slight favorite, then it's a pick 'em, and then Atlanta's slight favorite. So it's a really tough matchup to call, but it should be so much fun.
Mark, what do you think of the Thibodeau defensive game plan will be to try and slow down Trae Young? Could you see Frank Ntilikina getting a lot of playing time and maybe kind of being assigned to try and slow down Young?
Yeah, I mean, I remember writing stories Trae's rookie year. You know, Frank doing a great job, maybe even in the summer league with his length. Elfrid Payton has struggled massively on the offensive end. He looks lost, but he's got size and physicality. I think they really have to rattle Trae. Trae's been a better decision maker with Nate McMillan as the head coach. But listen, this is his first playoff game as well. He is sort of a fearless character, so I think he might do well. But I think the Knicks are going to show him different looks and be physical. You know, they are talking, let's not put him to the free throw line. That's easier said than done. But they have to rattle him somehow, and Thibodeau has a full week to figure that out. And I think that, you know, if Trae does play very well, it's going to really show how great a player he is.
He's Marc Berman, New York Post Knicks beat reporter. You can follow him on Twitter at NYPost_Berman. He's been on the beat for a long time, and he finally has a good basketball team that he's covering. Mark, appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much for coming on, and enjoy the series. It should be a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks so much, Jake. Anytime.
Marc Berman with us there on our Progressive guest line. Quoting home insurance just got easier when you use Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Quote and buy all online at Progressive.com. Quick break, and we wrap up our program for a Friday. This is the Jake Asman Show here on Sports Map Radio.
Let's go. Pushing the odds with Matt